It's the starting five. I'm Yaron Weitzman, and this week we are here to talk about the team that everyone says not enough people are talking about, the red hot Phoenix Suns. Though to describe them as red hot is really to do them a disservice. The Suns have basically been playing at this level for 2 seasons now. Remember, had it not been for a historic Giannis performance in last year's finals, the Suns probably would have ended the year as the NBA champions. I thought Devin Booker explained it really well the other day.
We've done a good job of not worrying about what people say about us, but it needs some recognition.
We at the starting five are here to do just that. The Suns are an absolute juggernaut. To me, the clear favorites to win the title. And not only that, but at this point, I think it's fair to say that I would be genuinely surprised if they don't end the season as champs. Here are 5 reasons why. Number 1, MVP backcourt. In Chris Paul and Devin Booker, the Suns have the best guard pairing in the entire NBA. Paul, despite a slight dip in his shooting this year, is playing at his typical point guard levels, leading the league in assists and is second in steals, and is the head of the snake of an elite offensive attack. Booker, meanwhile, has made a mini leap himself. He's cut his turnover rate to a career low level, he's improved his three-point shooting, and he remains a mid-range assassin. He's the leading scorer on the league's top team, which typically is the sort of player who ends up in the MVP conversation. This has led to some talk wondering why no one seems to have Booker on their MVP ballots. And what's really telling is that this charge is being led by Booker's opponents, guys like Kyrie Irving, Ja Morant, and Damian Lillard. Again, that's really telling that Booker's opponents view him in this regard. To be clear, Booker is not the MVP this season. That award has to go to either Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, or Giannis. All 3 are having historic seasons and are on teams racking up all sorts of wins. But this is one of the things that makes the Suns so great. They don't just have one MVP candidate, they have 2. They have an all-time great backcourt, 2 players in Paul and Booker, who could be the best players on championship caliber teams. Maybe if there was a way to combine votes for Paul and Booker, the Suns would have this year's MVP, but also the Suns have greater goals and they're aiming for something more than just individual awards. Next up, two-way dominance. Here's an incredible stat for you. Since the NBA began tracking play-by-play data 25 years ago, only 2 teams, the 2014-15 Warriors and the Warriors again in 16-17, have finished the season in the top 3 in both offense and defense. Both those teams went on to win the title. I bring this up because you guessed it, the Suns right now are in the top 3 in both categories. They're actually number 2 in both offense and defense, which is just further proof that this season is not fluky. This is a team without any weakness. They have no holes anywhere. Another example, the Suns are great both at home and on the road. In fact, at 30-6 on the road this season, they actually have a chance to tie the Warriors record for most road wins in a year. Again, this is a team with no weakness, which is going to make them an incredibly tough out come playoff time. Number 3, clutch gods. No stat is more indicative of just how dominant and overwhelming this Suns team has been than their performance this year in close games. So the NBA keeps track of a stat they call clutch time, which is basically any game that's within 5 points within the final 5 minutes of a game. The Suns this season have been incredible in these moments. Better than you even realized. They've gone 31-6 in games featuring clutch time, which not only sounds good, but is so much better than the second best team, the Clippers, who are just 22-17. The Suns have simply been running laps around opponents in clutch time. Watch them play in close games and you see a team that is both patient, opportunistic, and methodical. I loved how Chris Paul described the Suns' clutch time success recently.
It's cool, man. It's trust. You know what I mean? Like we talk about team. Like, we don't have to take crazy, contested, tough shots because we trust.
Paul and Booker are the obvious catalysts here, but like Paul said, the Suns are thriving because they have multiple options. 3-and-D stud Mikal Bridges might be the best role player in the NBA, so good that referring to him as a role player doesn't do him justice. You saw this with how well he played in the 15 games that Paul recently missed. There's also former number 1 pick DeAndre Ayton, who's morphed into a rim-running, paint-protecting behemoth, a dominant center who gives the Suns everything they need on the interior, and third-year wing Cam Johnson, who is actually leading the league in three-point shooting. Again, this is a team with multiple weapons and, most importantly, knows how to use each and every one of them. Come playoff time, there's nothing more dangerous than a team that is both confident and dominant in close games. Number 4, Coach of the Year. Monty Williams is in his third season as head coach of the Phoenix Suns. In those 3 seasons, the Suns have won 146 games and lost only 74, a ridiculous clip. The turnaround started in the bubble. We all remember the Suns going 8-0 over that stretch, and then they just missed the playoffs. Obviously, the Chris Paul addition was a huge difference maker for this team, but let's not overlook the difference that Monty Williams has made in engineering this incredible turnaround. Williams appears to be one of those rare coaches who's both brilliant with his X's and O's. Just look at the Suns' late game execution if you need some examples. And his players, it is very clear, just adore playing for him. For example, here's what Chris Paul said recently when asked whether Monty Williams should be the coach of the year.
It shouldn't even be close. No disrespect to all them other coaches, what they're doing, but what are you watching if this man do not get coach of the year?
Looking at the Suns' record and how they've played this season, it's hard to argue with anything Paul said. Number 5, wounded Warriors. Not only are the Suns dominating everyone they play, but if you look around the Western Conference, it's becoming clear that they're going to be the only true contender who enters the postseason fully healthy. The Memphis Grizzlies now have to worry about Ja Morant, who has a knee injury and is unlikely to return for the rest of the regular season. You know the deal with the Clippers and Nuggets, and the Warriors, probably the Suns' greatest threat, now have to worry whether Steph Curry's foot will be fully healed come playoff time. In other words, unless you're a big believer in the Mavericks or the Jazz, and I for one am not, it sort of feels like the field might be clear for the Suns to coast to the finals. Combine that with the fact that the East playoffs could be a bloodbath, one where the Bucks, Nets, Sixers, Celtics, and Heat all beat up on each other for 2 months. And well, to me, it looks like everything is set up for the Phoenix Suns. The Suns franchise has existed for 53 seasons. Incredibly, they have never won a single NBA title. But right now, all indications are that that drought is about to end. That's the starting 5. I'm Yaron Weitzman. For more great NBA coverage, be sure to check out the Fox Sports app.